Jason J. Rock Houston, and this is Catacris TV. And our guest for today is Truman Fuller. And Truman, could you introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're from?
Yeah. So I'm Truman Fuller. I sing for a rock band Dark from Day One. Personally, I'm from New Orleans, and we're just kind of based here in Arkansas around Russellville area. We play a lot of shows at places like Reverb over here in Little Rock, and we travel to Oklahoma also. We've also done Fort Smith. The band's been around for a long time. They've done shows in all 48 states, actually, and been on quite a few tours. A storied history with the band. Members have changed out a little bit here and there. I've been with the band about 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
briefly.
one of the lines I was really digging in the press release I got on the band was the band from Little Rock, Arkansas, and that features beards and dreads and stuff like that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Now,
Yeah.
being from New Orleans, I mean, that's quite a bit. Always been known for kind of being a party town. I mean, what was it like growing up there? And
Well, moved. I spent a lot of time around there till I was 14. So I can't say that I really got into the party scene. So
I guess
so to
just New
speak
Orleans
on
itself.
it's all right. So New Orleans is damp.
uh, yeah,
All
yeah,
right. It's
yeah,
damp, and anywhere you go, you could probably hear some good music and eat some good food, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind
That's
of
what that's what I was kind of
you
getting
know,
now. I was curious. In New Orleans or even Little Rock, where you guys are hanging now, is there much of a metal or hard rock scene there?
the in New Orleans, good question. I haven't spent a lot of time around there since Katrina.
Okay, so how
Um,
about Little Rock, where you guys are hanging now?
oh, Little Rock? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there is. There's lots of bands are along our vein in that area. It's really nice to do a show over there because we get to see a lot of people kind of do what we're doing, and we talk to them and we hang out with them, periodically, but we don't really get to like rub shoulders and just do the thing as much with people like us in our area as we do when we go to Little Rock. So it's very nice when we go there.
And let me ask you, Truman. I mean, how would you describe the band sound? Would you describe yourself as a metal band, a hard rock band?
Um, all right. So follow me here. I would say that we are post new metal
Yeah.
industrial rock.
Okay, but
Sure.
that's kind of fitting
Sure.
because
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, you're not like like a grindcore metal band or anything like that, but
No.
you got elements of hard rock and metal, and but it's kind of like but the reason I ask is kind of like hard to pigeonhole you, you know?
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of different backgrounds, but some of the stuff that we agree on would probably be like bands like Breaking Benjamin.
I could hear that.
Uh
Okay, okay.
right. Tool. We love Tool. And newer bands like Starset. Um, gosh, man, I'm
Are
drawing
you the
blank right
principal
now, but there's
songwriter in the band, or does everybody contribute?
everybody contributes. Generally what happens is our guitarist, one of our guitarists, we have two guitarists. We have Natal
Okay,
and Rob. Rob is the black-haired, long-haired dude.
okay.
And how you tell him apart is because he doesn't have a big red beard. Big red beard is
Yeah, yeah. There you
Natal.
go.
All right. So generally what happens is one of us will come up with like an idea. Either it's a riff or like a song. And anyone in the band will come up with some sort of idea, and then it'll kind of like go into his computer, into Rob's computer. He's also kind of like our main mixer, sound producer, also for the
Okay,
band,
okay. That's
which
cool.
is, I guess, becoming more of a common place story, in bands kind of like us these days,
You kind
especially
kind
with
of
the
keep it all in house,
accessibility.
right? I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the more we keep it in the house, the more kind of like authentic control maybe we have over the sound. Um, but and then I'll kind of go back and forth. I'll go out. He has his own studio, obviously at his house. He does recording for a lot of different bands. It's Horizon Studios.
Okay.
Rob Nodger, Horizon Studios. Check it out. He's awesome at what he does. But we'll go back and forth and kind of like creatively bounce off of each other. We either send files back and forth to each other. All of us, as much as possible, try to get everyone to listen to it along the way as it's traveling, towards its destination. And then, they're kind of like the songs that could, when they
Sure.
reach the point where we're happy, we'll track those last vocals and get it off to mastering. And that's generally how it works. It's a
Now,
journey
typically,
between.
like when you're coming up with the lyrics and the vocals, a lot of that is, would you say that typically is inspired by the guitar playing, the riff, or do you have a story in mind usually when you're writing a song?
It's both. For me personally, I feel music very much in a way that's, I guess, difficult to put in words. But I'm probably everyone can relate to that. Okay,
Sure,
don't get me
sure.
wrong. Okay, but for me, whenever I'm writing, it's definitely melodic based more than the words. But when the words come, they're probably something to do with what I'm going through in my life at that time.
It
Probably is
makes sense.
where
I
that's
mean,
coming
because a
from.
lot of the great songs, at least from throughout my lifetime, I could say, story songs. Like, I mean, you listen to stuff, everything like from anything from like Aerosmith, Tom Petty, the Eagles, the Rolling Stones. I mean, these
Yeah.
are songs that have been on the radio for 40 or 50 years. And there's a
Yep.
reason for that, you know?
There is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And something, Natal always says this, and he's so right. Music is about creating moments, and moments that not only we relate to, but moments that bring kind of like an understanding. Because as humans, I feel like we definitely yearn for an understanding of one another, and
Yeah.
music is a wonderful universal way to kind of like transmit that to someone else. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
go
sure
ahead.
as a singer too, like when you guys are recording and you're coming up with the stuff, writing, creating, a lot of times as you're recording the song, it's like, wait a minute, that's the hook in the song. You're not even aware of it until
Right.
as you're doing it, maybe.
Sometimes it's man, sometimes it's a you're fighting for every inch that you can get on it, and sometimes it's a eureka moment. You just never know. You never know how it's going to happen.
Yeah. And Truman, were you always a singer? I was curious. I always love to ask guys like, a lot of guys have a story, but they start out as a guitar player, and then maybe because they had the best voice in the band, or people told them, hey, have you ever thought about singing? But they didn't always have that. What
I
was your
mean, that's a
story?
story. That's a story if you want to hear
Yeah,
it. So I've been singing as long as I can remember.
yeah,
I grew up, I was probably 4 years old. I remember standing up in front of church and singing something.
yeah.
My first love in music was classical. I loved first piano, and then that grew into a lot of the greats. And so we've always, my history is really in church, is where I grew up. Early on,
I guess I hear that
my
from a
mom
lot
was
of people.
religious,
Amazingly enough. Yeah,
so we our whole family sang. Our whole family was musical, on to my grandparents all the way down to us. We There was always music all around us all the time. We expressed ourselves that way constantly. I've sang all different parts, harmonies and a cappella groups and stuff, before I was 14. You know what I mean?
wow.
And I played piano a lot. I played lots of different instruments, man. Just
That's probably
bass,
why you write
mandolin,
with,
piano,
your songs
guitar.
got such great melody. I mean, to it.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Actually, that means a lot. Then about 14, we moved, to Arkansas, but more around the northern side of Arkansas, and I didn't have as much access to a piano, so I started picking up the guitar more, and there I kind of started to really, when I was 16, I heard Breaking Benjamin. I played video games, and I heard the soundtrack for, I was always about soundtracks, because I love
Mhm.
classical
Yeah.
music, and then I heard
Yeah.
just this pounding amazing rock riffs, and it was different than anything. I'm different than like Alice in Chains, which I already love. Alice in Chains,
Uh-huh.
Nirvana, those older bands like
Sure.
Pearl Jam, and then all of a sudden I heard this really new sounding, shit that was coming out of
Yeah.
this Halo 2 soundtrack, and it was Breaking Benjamin and Steve Vai, of course. Those were the masterminds behind that. And so that led into, and a lot of my vocals are kind of inspired by just that. I think it's an amazing, fresh and crisp sound that Ben Burnley has on his vocals, and I've always kind of like early in my early years chased that in a way. But
Mhm.
my sound evolved through bluegrass and southern gospel, and then folk music, and then heavy metal and rock. It all had its turn, and I've always had an
So I
appreciation
was
for every
curious
bit of
when
it.
you're coming up in the church like that, and that's kind of your first exposure to music. Um, what was your reaction from fellow churchgoers, your family members, when you started to get into that heavier kind of music? Was
Well,
it like, hey, that's the devil's music, or did you get any
yeah,
of that?
absolutely. Yeah, it was not accepted,
Yeah.
and that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. Especially from my sisters. I'm the oldest of three,
Yeah.
okay, and I have two younger sisters. They're always supportive of me, and which I
Uh-huh.
love and appreciate. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Pawnee and Annis. But my mom, man, just an amazing woman,
Mhm.
super straight shooter, will never compromise in what she believes, and she believed that rock was the devil's music.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the
so
funniest thing about that is, like when I was growing up, I'm a little older than you probably, and Ozzy, in his soul career, he was really huge back, the early '80s and that, and everything from Piston on the Alamo to, Suicide Solution and supposedly writing the song to,
yeah.
so his fans would kill himself and being sued and eating the head off of a bat and stuff, and then years later, when he gets older and he has a TV show, all of a sudden, all the church people and the old people that thought he was the devil, all of a sudden love him.
Yep, yep. Yeah, it's you'd be amazed how much it's because religion, and I'm not gonna go too far into it, but
No,
religion
no,
is
no.
definitely like it's a visual thing. There
Yeah,
are icons in religion, right? And so
sure.
an image means a lot to
Yeah,
religious people. So if you see someone putting an act on that is
yeah,
not acceptable, it's very easy for them to infer not only the act, but anyone
yeah,
associated with that act as not being
yeah.
acceptable.
I,
But it is cool that they were
yeah,
able to sort of overcome that when they got to look at who the person was.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Not
The reason
just the
I bring it up
shtick.
is because I think a lot of metal fans kind of can relate to that in the sense that a guy may like get in his metal garb and he may look like oh, what is that? But then you get to know a person, you talk to him. Oh, that music you listen to, but oh, you're such a nice young man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They got that judgmental side sometimes, but we all do. Let's be honest, we all we all look at something and we judge it.
I had a victory though. Okay, I had a personal victory with this because one of our songs is "Crawl," and we like to say we're a positive rock band. Okay,
Sure,
a lot of our lyrics is about the power. They're powerful, but they're about the power that's inside of you. You know what I'm saying?
sure, sure.
Um, and I think it's the fire inside is a very powerful force in the world. But one of our songs, "Crawl," kind of starts out with an acoustic riff. And I played that whole song for my mom. And even when we got to the end where just everything kicks in and there's this space melting guitar solo and it's not subtle at all, even when that happened, I saw her flinching,
And
but she
yeah,
still
yeah,
said she enjoyed the song.
yeah.
That's a first. That
Like
was a
like I said,
win.
I
I'll
listened to
take it.
the current single "Prisoner." Beautiful song, got great melody. And just hearing the one song, I can tell you the best thing I can say is like I can't wait to hear more songs from this band. And listen when you listen to something for the first time, you're kind of thinking, who do these guys remind me of? And honestly, I honestly think I can say, and just having heard the one song, is you got your own thing going. Truman, like I can't sit here and say, oh, they're trying to be the next Metallica or whatever. You got your own sound going. I think you're kind of
Cool.
trying to find the band sound.
Cool.
So talk a little bit about that.
It's really cool to hear from an outside perspective talking about our sound because it's easy for me because I've just done so many different types of music, and when I hear our music, I hear an amalgamation of a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying, and I hear very specific things.
Yeah.
So it's really cool for me to hear you say that. Hey,
Like
you're
like
working on your
I
own
could maybe
sound.
describe it as alternative music. I mean, I don't know that
Mhm.
I describe you guys as although it's got elements of metal to it, but
Man, we
I
just want
guess
to
you
be awesome.
you can call it whatever you want. I mean, and that's I think what's
Yeah,
cool when a band you can have a band that can do a beautiful power ballad and then at the same time a beautiful rocker. Different sounds, and I think those are the bands that kind of last the longest.
sure. Well,
Yeah,
it's been around a while.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we this is something that we do because we love. That's
You
definitely why we're
before
doing
we
it.
went on there today, you mentioned maybe you want to be sure to let people know about that you guys are in the process of getting some shows set up.
Yeah, yeah. No, we're things come in waves, and things are definitely on the uptick right now, both for creating content, both like on we've got a lot of stuff in the works. I'm not
Okay.
talk a whole lot about it, but we definitely are got music coming, and we definitely have shows coming. Okay, so those two things definitely, and hopefully a lot of stuff in between, not just
Yeah,
merchandise, but hopefully a lot of video content that talks about a lot of the gaps in the space in between.
and I
you know
always love to ask people about the name of the band. Tell the story behind the origin of a name because Dark from day one. I mean, you hear that and you think, and it's going to be a pretty heavy metal band, and the name doesn't really sound like the band, but that's kind of what I dig about it. You
Sure.
kind of go in.
There's a whole story about the name of the band. And Natal, this is kind of this band is kind of his baby.
Okay,
Natal is the glue. Natal is the guy who founded the band. And he's been the constant the whole time, and the overall direction, and just the mental focus for it, I guess, in a way.
okay,
And he has actually a very well rehearsed thing that he says when anyone asks what you just asked.
uh,
But I don't know it all.
okay,
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 but the general idea is, we never know what life is going to throw at us.
sure,
We came out of the womb in the dark from day one.
uh,
Okay, so life is about an experience. It's about learning, and it's always a journey from beginning to end. We don't know what's going to happen. We're
sure, yeah, yeah.
in the dark from day one.
I
In a
dig
nutshell.
that. That makes sense, you know. And I was curious, like growing up, when you start getting into metal music and start playing in bands, um, like what was the reaction you immediately got from people, especially people in church? Like first time you played your music for some of those people, like did they not want to hear it, or did they think, it's not as
Well,
bad as I thought it would be,
I
or
that wasn't really a conflict for me, because I dramatically changed my entire social circle when I was 16. I moved out of my
okay,
house, and see, I was playing video games also, and that was the devil's work. So
wow, yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of I
yeah,
moved out of my house, and I moved in with someone that I was working with. And I
wow,
had my guitar, my Xbox, and some clothes and some other stuff, and my job. That's pretty much
yeah,
what I
yeah,
had. So the entire my audience was never the church people. It was never the people around me at church, because I kind of quit going to church around 16. I kind of like branched off drastically in my life into the unknown, so to speak. So I started playing music. I started meeting musicians like me, and just
doing
doing
your
that
own
thing. And
thing.
everyone that I played with and talked to, they loved what I was doing. I had
Yeah.
some critics saying, you're better singer than you are guitar player, or you're better, you should stick to playing guitar. I've heard those things, and it's neither here nor
So,
there.
in the current band, do you play guitar and sing, or are you just the singer?
Right now, just singing. What I want to have on stage, something we're working on, is I just purchased a full 88 key weighted key MIDI keyboard, and I want to bring a computer up on stage and have a lot access to a lot of sounds, and a full keyboard on stage. I even want to have a song that starts out with the piano, because that's my roots, is playing piano and singing, and then on to playing guitar and singing.
Again,
So
that's probably why you write in the style you do, because oftentimes when you play more than one instrument, not you know not only does it make you a better producer, you have a better ear, you have a better understanding what the other guys in the band are doing, and if you
that's
can
true.
if you can write maybe on the piano, on the guitar, it kind of broadens the horizons, as they say.
Yeah, it really does. It really does help. A lot to be said there, but you're right. It does help.
And you have a like I was curious, like, because a lot of guys, like you said, you start out as a guitar player and then you get into singing. A lot of guys have, even the great frontmen, they got the guitar as their security blanket. How do you feel about that, or you feel more free not having to have a guitar on stage?
Um, it still is awkward sometimes,
You're like, oh
not
wait,
having a
yeah,
guitar
yeah,
on
yeah,
stage.
yeah.
Like, what do I do with myself? I have a nervous tick thing that I do with my left hand. If you see me on stage, I'll grab a couple loops of the cord, and
Oh,
without realizing, I'll start braiding a circle out of it with
yeah,
my hand, just kind of like, and I'll have this twisted circle thing in my
yeah.
hand. It'll pull right apart, but I do it without even realizing I'm doing it, because I'm just trying to figure out what to do with myself, not
Yeah,
having a
because
guitar.
different singers have different approaches, but it's kind of it's really interesting, because I heard one of the hardest things when you're a front man, especially if you're playing the guitar and singing, got to remember what chords to play, got to remember the lyrics, got to remember
Man,
everything.
you know what even makes that worse, okay? And here's been one of my challenges, is that we have sometimes almost ostentatiously long intros in some of our
Yeah,
songs,
yeah,
okay? And there are interludes in between the songs, and it's become part of the set, because they're
sure.
really awesomely crafted little pieces of music. These intros are, but during that time, it's like I need to say something. I need to talk about maybe our socials. I need to,
yeah, yeah,
just talk about something. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I'm standing out there like,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, that's been one of
yeah,
my challenges, and it's exacerbated because of those long intros.
yeah, yeah. And talking about meeting with fans after a show or something like, you must have people come up to you and tell you, hey, I just checked out the latest song you guys put out. I'm digging it. And you have people come up and kind of get their interpretation of what the song is about, and you're thinking
Mm.
that's not what it's really about. But man, if that's what it does for you, great.
Yeah, well, man, I know my thing of it is I'm not married too much to a single interpretation of a song because I kind of put myself in a third person sort of when
Sure.
I'm writing. It's definitely coming from like the story that it means to me, but
Yeah,
also when I listen to those songs, I'm able to kind of like detach myself and then hear even those songs that we wrote, in a way that kind of like interacts with current events in my life even. So I'm not so married to one
one thought. Yeah,
story. Like some of them have very specific stories, but still they're not so much about a story as they
sure.
are about a concept.
Okay, okay.
That makes
Now
sense.
let's talk about the new single "Prisoner." I was checking out the lyric video, pretty killer lyric video. How involved were you guys with creating that video, or did you have somebody else create
we
it
had
for you?
we had someone else do it. I'm sorry, I don't know his name off the
That's
top of
all
my
right.
head,
That's all
but
right. Yeah.
he's probably maybe his credited in the video somewhere
Okay.
or in the
Okay.
description. I'm sure you can check out on
Yeah.
YouTube. I should know his name off the top of my head, and it's
That's
escaping
all
me.
right. That's all right. People can look it up, like you said. But I
But
just asked
he's
because
good
you.
at it. He's someone
Yeah.
that does it in the industry frequently.
Okay. Yeah.
So
You can. Well, you can tell because that's why I was asking. And again, you want to get much into what the song means to you, or what you wrote it about?
oh, I'm prisoners.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that is mostly Rob's song.
Oh, okay.
That yep,
Okay.
that is Rob's song. I came in, I wrote the second verse, I think. But man, he had this like all together and he was so fired up about it. It was the chorus and the first verse for sure. And the second verse we had some lyrics for it, and then I kind of like I went through and I refined it. I guess that sometimes happen. We'll do a whole thing and then the other person will refine it. We trust each other that way,
Mhm.
which is really cool.
And yeah.
For me, I really felt trapped in a certain situation, and
Uh,
so I definitely, some of that intensity in there is definitely from how trapped I felt in that certain situation was channeled
and
there. Yeah.
and you were also sharing with Truman that you guys, I don't know how long ago, but you're signed now to Pavement, and you've been releasing singles one at a time, and that's kind of a plan going forward. But eventually, there's plans for a full length. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that's what we want to do. That's what I would like to see happen anyway. I know Natal would also like to see that as well. I think that we should never forget about full length albums and the order that we put the songs in, because it's almost a lost art form, really. A lot of albums that come out, kind of the songs lead into each other, and the whole album tells as much of a story sometimes as one of the songs does.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, that's kind of I'm old school that way. That when I was growing up in the '70s and '80s, I used to love going to a record store and spending all day and looking at the beautiful artwork and people watching this. What's a record store? But yeah, yeah. I used to
Right,
be able to
right.
buy your music, in actual stores and not have to get everything on Amazon. But
Yeah, and for me it was CDs. I
yeah,
had
me
quite a
too.
collection, and I think what's interesting right now is records probably have more of a current audience than CDs do.
Yeah, it's funny. It's making a huge comeback like over the
Yeah,
last 10 years, and at one point, like again, when I was growing up back in the '70s and '80s, you could buy an LP for like 7 or 8.99. Now it's more like $30. Now I've seen some of the stuff they're coming out with, and I really don't mind paying something like that if it's a decent package, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
Um, but again, I'm not going to spend $200 on one LP or something. But
yeah. I mean, materials are just so much more expensive.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
the materials they make them with.
But I would
And
rather have the beautiful artwork to look at. Like you said. I mean,
yeah,
I used to spend all day in the record store just to look. Like I remember seeing Iron Maiden's "Number of the Beast" for the very first time. I don't know what the hell this is, but I got to have this.
yep, yep. No, incredible artwork. All of Iron Maiden stuff, pretty incredible.
In fact, they were like geniuses at marketing. I mean, I remember for years not even knowing what anybody in the band looked like. Just Eddie Monster is like, oh, that's cool, man. Whatever this band is.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So speaking of artwork, what you got behind you? I was kind of catching glimpses of your little character
Oh,
back there with the.
that's our little graphic for our site. It's called Chaotic Riffs, and so that's our little guy, and the guy who owns the site, he created the little graphic for when we do these interviews.
Oh, okay, okay. So your head's right in front of it. Would you care just for like half a
There
second?
you go. Yeah,
There it is. Okay, yeah. I've been like, man, I want to see that guy's ad. You know.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. We also have a show we do called This Is Metal, so maybe we can have you come back and do an episode of that. But you're
All
welcome
right,
back
all right.
anytime, Truman. It's great getting to know you. So we just kind of getting your story out today. Then I'm gonna
Thank
try to
you.
get this up by Thursday or Friday. I'll let Barbara know. But please feel free to come back anytime you have anything to promote. Okay.
Okay, wonderful. I appreciate it.
Okay. Take
Good
care. Bye
talk,
bye.
Jason. See ya.